Hello, this is Laura. Today, I want to talk about something that many people struggle with, especially when they are learning English. How to talk naturally in English conversations. You might understand English when you read or listen, but when it is time to speak, your mind suddenly becomes blank. You start translating every sentence from your native language. You worry about grammar. You worry about making mistakes. And because of that, your speech becomes slow, unnatural, or even silent. If this happens to you, you are not alone. Millions of people feel the same way. But the good news is that speaking naturally in English is a skill. And like any skill, it can be learned with the right approach. The first thing to understand is that natural conversation is not perfect English. Many learners believe they must speak with perfect grammar before they can sound natural. But if you listen to native speakers carefully, you will notice something interesting. They pause, they repeat words, they use simple sentences, and sometimes they even make mistakes. Natural conversation is about communication, not perfection. The first step to speaking naturally is thinking in English instead of translating. Translation slows your brain down. When you translate every sentence from your native language, your conversation becomes stressful and slow. Instead, try to connect English words directly to ideas or images in your mind. For example, when you think about coffee, imagine the cup, the smell, the taste. Do not translate the word into another language first. This habit takes time to develop, but it makes your speech faster and more natural. The second step is learning common conversation phrases. In real-life conversations, people do not always use long, complicated sentences. They often use simple expressions like, "That makes sense," "I see what you mean," "Honestly, to be honest," "You know what I mean," or "Let me think." These small phrases make conversations flow smoothly. They give your brain time to think while still sounding natural. The third step is listening more. If you want to speak naturally, you must hear natural speech often. Watch interviews, podcasts, and everyday conversations. Pay attention to how people connect sentences, how they react, and how they express simple ideas. Notice the rhythm of English. Notice how people use short responses like, "Right, exactly, yeah," or "I get it." The more you listen, the more your brain becomes familiar with natural patterns. Another important step is practicing speaking out loud. Many learners study English silently. They read and listen, but they rarely speak. Speaking is like exercising a muscle. If you do not use it, it becomes weak. Try something simple. Talk to yourself in English for a few minutes every day. Describe what you are doing. For example, you can say, "I'm making coffee right now," or "I need to finish this task before lunch." This may feel strange at first, but it trains your brain to produce English automatically. You can also practice shadowing. Shadowing means listening to a sentence and repeating it immediately, trying to copy the speaker's tone, rhythm, and pronunciation. This technique helps you sound more natural because you are learning the music of the language. Another important thing to remember is to slow down. Many learners try to speak too fast because they think fast speech sounds fluent. But when you speak too quickly, you become nervous and make more mistakes. Speaking clearly and calmly is much more natural than rushing. Confidence also plays a big role in natural conversation. If you are constantly afraid of making mistakes, your brain will freeze. But mistakes are part of learning. Every fluent speaker made thousands of mistakes while learning. Instead of worrying about being perfect, focus on being understood. Another helpful tip is asking questions. Conversations are not only about speaking, they're about interaction. If you do not know what to say next, ask something simple. For example, "What do you think?" Or "How was your experience?" Or "Can you tell me more about that?" Questions keep the conversation alive and reduce pressure on you. Let me tell you something important. Fluency does not come from knowing more grammar rules. Fluency comes from using the language again and again in real situations. Your brain learns through repetition and exposure. The more you speak, the more comfortable you become. The more comfortable you become, the more natural you sound. Imagine a child learning their first language. They do not start with perfect sentences. They start with small words, then simple phrases. and slowly their speech becomes smoother. Language learning works the same way for adults. Now, I want to ask you something. What is the most difficult part of speaking English for you? Is it vocabulary, pronunciation, confidence, or thinking quickly during conversations? Write in the comments, "I will speak English with confidence," and share one situation where you want to speak English more naturally. Your comment might motivate someone else who feels shy about speaking. If this episode helped you, like this video and subscribe to the channel. When you subscribe, you are choosing progress over fear and practice over hesitation. This is Laura. Remember, natural English conversation does not come from being perfect. It comes from being brave enough to speak again and again until the language begins to feel like your own. Keep practicing, keep listening, and most importantly, keep speaking.